Hello again from my front porch, and it is a beautiful day here on the front porch. Now a couple of days ago it was not quite so beautiful here in Iowa. It was over 100 degrees and it was steamy and balmy, and it was as bad as any day I've ever spent down in Florida. And it's funny too, as I travel around the country, people don't really a lot of people don't really know where Iowa is. they don't really pay attention to that, and I'll talk about the heat stuff, and they'll be like, well, yeah, but it's still cooler than it is here. No, actually, no, it's pretty sticky and muggy and icky up there. And they'll be like, what, really? I thought Iowa would be cooler than that. It's like they think Iowa's in Canada or Minnesota, which they assume is in Canada. And that it's like Alaska, that there's snow all the time and it's frozen, and even in Alaska it's not snow and frozen all the time. But still, it is funny how people misunderstand what the weather patterns are really like here in Iowa. But anyway, I recently I want to share with you all about a little social media experiment that I did. Now, I like to share stuff online of a political nature, not because I try to stir up things. Sometimes I might be feeling a little ornery about something, but for the most part, I share stuff because I'm at heart a journalist and an educator. That's my background, and I'll see a debate going on, or there's a hot button issue that's currently trending, and I'll notice that there's some questions nobody's asking, or there's some information that seems to be missing, and so I will interject some of that, and then it's always interesting to see how it's received, because we really have, politically speaking, especially at the presidential level, we have two camps now: the pro-Trump and the anti-Trump. There isn't really a pro-Biden. People who support Biden are the anti-Trump. And then so you have the people who support Trump and the anti-Trump. And when I post something, a lot of times, if it's something that seems to favor Trump, well, then I get the people who are the anti-Trumpers. They get all hostile and jump all over it, and they want to make all kinds of assumptions about me, which are completely off base because I don't support Trump. but it's comical to see all of the insults that get leveled, the assumptions that people just jump right to. Likewise, if I post something that is favorable to the anti-Trump side, then I got the pro-Trump people who are like, well, you don't understand. You need to understand this about Trump. I was like, well, nah, okay, whatever. But I may reduce that. I may have to make some alterations to what I do with that, because my little social media experiment was, I simply asked, both on my page and in a couple of discussion threads in some other areas, I asked the simple question: is there anything that could happen between now and November that would alter how you plan to vote? President or otherwise. I mean, I didn't specify, but the question, implying presidential, but it could be all the way down the ticket. Is there anything that could happen between now and November that would change how you would vote? And what the overwhelming response has been is no. There's nothing. Whether I am pro-Trump or anti-Trump, there is nothing that would change it, aside from maybe Trump resigning from the ticket and not being the candidate. And I suspect that that's why we still see all the efforts to try to continue to investigate Trump and get his tax returns and his financial records and all this kind of stuff, is because they're still looking for that smoking gun somewhere that they can say, see, he's a criminal. He's a criminal activity, in an attempt to try to force him into a Nixon-like resignation rather than continue on with re-election. So I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? Stuff happens. We'll find out. But assuming Trump does not leave the ticket, I don't see anything changing. The sides are dug in. They're pro and anti-Trump. That's it. And it doesn't really even matter if Biden stays on the ticket. They could replace him with anybody else, and the anti-Trump would still be anti-Trump because Trump is still there. So that's really the two sides. And so when I ask the question, is there anything that could change your how you're aligned in that way, how you plan to vote, the answer was a resounding no. In fact, there were some who honestly said that they're not sure they would vote for anybody. And I'm in that camp as well. I've said long ago that I will only vote for candidates. I don't vote against anybody. Especially, I don't give my vote to a candidate whose only campaign tactic is to remind me how much they are not the other person without giving me anything about themselves. And so, the whole, well, you're going to choose the lesser of two evils, I reject that because I still will not vote for evil. If it's evil is evil, I don't care if it's a lesser evil, it's still evil, will not get my support, period. I say, well, if you don't vote, then you can't complain. Guess again. Give me a candidate I can actually support, who actually wants my vote and works for my vote, not just who badmouths and beats up on their opponent, whichever way it goes. And that candidate will get my support. Until then, I have a right to make my choices as I choose. But I'd be curious to know, as you watch this video, I'd be curious to know if you have a different stance. Is there anything that could happen on the pro-Trump side or the anti-Trump side? Is there anything that could happen that would cause you to change how you would vote if the election were today? If you were asked to vote today, is there anything that could happen between now and November that would change that vote? And near as I can tell, there is nothing. Nada. Zip. Zilch. The battle lines have already been drawn. The sides have already been chosen. And it's already been decided. We just don't know it yet because nobody's cast any ballots yet. Well, at least ones that we can count. Absentee ones, I guess you can start doing some of those. I think at least you can start requesting them. I don't know if the ballots themselves are out yet. I assume they are. Don't know. I haven't requested one. But still, point being, keep that in mind as we move on through these next very painful, very bloody, politically speaking, very nasty, very mean, very aggressive months, as you see politicians ripping each other at the just shredding each other. Just keep in mind that it's all pointless. It's all for naught, because we've already decided who we're voting for. We already know. We're going to now spend all this time just creating further hostility, creating further division, spending ungodly amounts of money to barrage us with propaganda that's barely even half true, because it's always just one side of the story. And all in the name of trying to influence the results of an election that's already been determined. So with that in mind, I'm gonna start keeping that in mind with what I do on social media now, because I know what I believe, and I know where my heart is, but there's a point where it's like, you choose your hill to die on, and if everyone's already made their opinions, if everyone's already formed their opinions, made their choices, then why keep trying to throw stuff out there to help people if they don't want to be helped? They're not listening, they're not reading, they're not considering, and they're certainly not open to changing. So, no, I wish we had a way to just do like in parliamentary procedure. If you're at a meeting and there's a motion and a second and you have discussion, at any point in time somebody can say, Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Chairman, Miss Chairman, whatever the verbiage is they'd be using, I call the question. And call the question means there's no more, all discussion has to stop, all debate has to stop, it doesn't require a second. It just means that calling the question means now we have to have a vote. And it gets voted up or down at that point. And honestly, I wish there was a way that for our election this year, I wish we could just stop it right here and we could just call the question. Right now, let's just call the question right now. we all already know how we would vote. Let's call the question now, get it done, get it over with, and move on with our lives. Because I am not looking forward to these next several months, not at all. Especially now that I know that here in Iowa, they say that it's a toss-up for Trump, and the Democrats are targeting Senator Joni Ernst's seat as one that they hope that they can flip in an attempt for Democrats to take the U.S. Senate. And there's one of the current Democrat representatives out in eastern Iowa that Republicans are targeting her seat. Plus, Steve King, the perennial Republican stalwart from western Iowa, was defeated in his primary. So now there is an unknown Republican over there who still stands a pretty good chance of being elected because it's a pretty solid Republican district, but he's an unknown now. And so, what will happen there? That brings a lot of attention for all three of those areas, the White House, the Senate, and the House. Brings a lot of attention to Iowa, which means we are going to be a battleground state, and I'm going to have to deal with all the crap that comes along with that for the next several months. Not looking forward to that whatsoever. Really wish I could call the question right now. All right. Well, with that, I've vented this, get this out of my system. Now I'm going to sit back and enjoy a little more of this fine, wonderful day here, just relaxing on the porch swing on my front porch. Maybe someday I should just do a video just of this, just relaxing on the front porch. We wouldn't even talk. We'll just sit here and sip lemonade or iced tea. That sounds like a good idea. I may just do that. All right. Well, with that, I'll let y'all go. And I'll see you next time from my front porch.